All right, this is bulk management of hosts and services in Nagios XI. Ludmil Miltchev, please.
Morning to everyone. Welcome. I'll be talking about bulk management of hosts and services in Nagios XI. Here's the overview of the presentation. First, I'm going to mention what is really bulk host cloning and import wizard. Why do we need to use it? Then I'll go over installing, running of the wizard. I'll mention some of the limitations of the wizard and some of the possible issues you can encounter while running it. And then briefly, I'll just mention some other bulk modification tools in Nagios XI. Let's start a little bit with the history. Why we need to use the bulk host cloning and import wizards. We have many users that wanted to clone hosts along with its services, and that was a very difficult task in before. The way the Nagios Core Config Manager is set up. As you know, in XI, you do most of your configuration through the CCM. So if you want to clone a host with the services the old way in a CCM, what you need to do is find the host in a CCM, click on a copy action button. When new host appears, click on a modify button, tweak, configuration, save and apply, and you have a new host created. However, this host has no services. Now, if you want to copy the services as well, you'll have to go to the original host that you've been cloning, go to services, again, copy the service and so forth, and repeat the procedure. One thing which is not really intuitive, when you copy the service, new service doesn't really appear in the list of the services. It appears in under the config name filter drop-down menu, which is sometimes confusing to some of the users. So basically, I'll show you some images. Hopefully, you'll be able to see. Let's say we want to clone a Windows 7 host. We click on a copy action button. New host is created. It's named automatically to Windows 7.1. It's still not active. We got to go and modify configuration. After we do that, let's say we rename it to Windows 7-new. Here's the new host created, no services. Now, we want to go back and look at the services of the original host that we're copying. We have a CPU, disk, memory usage, etc. So we copy the first service, CPU usage, and as you can see, the new service appears in a config name filter list. So we have to modify it, change the config name, remove this service from the original host, Windows 7, and put it into the Windows 7-new, make it active, save, and apply configuration. So after we do that, we have the new host with one service. So imagine, doing that for all services, and especially copying this host with all its services several times. I wouldn't say this is a very easy process. There are other ways of doing it. I'm not saying this is the only way. You can actually create config files manually. You can even automate the process using scripts and so forth, and then import those config files into Nagios XI. I just wanted to show you this because normally when you think about Nagios XI and configuring it, you think about the Core Config Manager, and this is how it used to be done before. So So why use it and what it is? After seeing that, we decided we need to create a tool that's going to make cloning hosts with their services easier and make it useful for mid-size and large environments. Therefore, bulk host cloning and import wizard was created. It basically allows you to import many hosts and services using the CSV dump. It can be really useful not only if you have a large environment, but if you have an environment where you have many similar hosts. For example, you may have a Linux or Windows server set up exactly as you want it to be monitored, and you have a bunch of other servers that you want to monitor in a similar way. So in this case, you can use the bulk host wizard. It is also a very nice tool because, let's say, initially you had 5 services on this original host that you're cloning, but later you decided to, okay, I want to add a few more services. You can basically rerun the wizard and add those extra services to all of the hosts that have been created. Needless to say, it's a time saver for people. It seems like the feedback has been really positive. People like using it, so that's good, and it's easy to use. So how do you install it? It's fairly easy. You can download it from the Nagios Exchange. I provided you with a download link. Installing it, you install it as you would install any other wizard. Just go to the admin menu, manage config wizards, browse, find the file that you've downloaded, double click on it, and click on upload wizard, and it's done. If you're unsure on how to install wizards, we have a documentation on the topic. There's a link to it. Now I'm gonna go through the steps of running the wizard. One good thing about this wizard, it's very easy to be used, and that makes my life really a nightmare because I have to talk for an hour for a wizard where you click on the next button a few times and you're done. But anyway, so you just click on the configure, run the monitoring wizard, find the wizard in a list, and you can see how the icon looks like. And then you move to step 2. In the step 2, basically you select an existing host in XI that you would like to be cloned and used as a template. I'm not sure if you can see very well. In step 3, you select the services that should be cloned. I mean, here you can select all of the services of this host, and you can select some of them. But I would like to mention you have to select at least one. Some users try to use this wizard and clone a host only with no services. It would not work. I mean, as far as I know, right now, it doesn't work unless you select one service. So after you selected the services, you can enter your data in a CSV format. It's probably sufficient just to enter the IP addresses, but you can also enter the names and aliases as well. Those values should be comma separated, and each new server should be on a new line. One thing some users forget is sometimes they enter all of the data into the text box, but then they forget to select in field 2 and field 3 the name or the description. If you forget to do so, this info will not be copied over. So on step 4, you can basically just click on a finish button and be done with it. But the wizard is I mean, the way it's developed, you have to go through all the steps. So that's why we have all those steps. Otherwise, we'll just put the finish button. I'll go through those steps just to show you what's happening. So basically, in step 4, we're inheriting the monitoring options. In step 5, notification options. Then we're copying over the parent-child relationships in step 6. And in the final step, we're adding the new configuration, so it's getting written in files. So after you run the wizard, you can go to the Nagios XI homepage, and under host detail, you can see the newly created hosts in a pending state. If you take a look at the services of one of the new hosts, you'll see that all the services have been copied over, so they've been cloned. And now let's take it at the config file, which is kind of boring part, but basically I wanted to show you that what we have on a template host. We have a parent local host, and this host is a member of the Linux servers host group, and we have max checks attempts 5 and 5 and 1 and so forth. So you can look at the configuration, and this is the one from the new host, one of the new hosts, ls-101. So basically, we have the same configuration copied over. So I'm going to play a video. I'm not going to do a live demo. I don't like live demos. So on this video, I'll be showing it how I copied one Linux host and one Windows host, basically. Let's start this video. So I have a Ubuntu and a Windows 7 hosts. Those are the services of the Ubuntu host. So the services of the Windows host. I'll go to the CCM and show you the configuration. Okay, so you can see the parent is the local host. It's part of the Linux servers host group. We've got 3, 1, 3. And besides the Nagios admin, we have one extra contact added, Linux contact, and so forth. So we'll take a look at the Windows. Here's the parent is different. It's just for demonstration purposes. This is just a test box. So okay, we have a Win contact here for the Windows box. So we'll be running the wizard now. So it's very easy. I mean, it's just few steps, and as I said, we have a really positive feedback. People really like it. So here, I selected all of the services, but if you need to, you can select only some of them. Again, here you can type all of the data manually. I just had it in a text file, just dumped it in there. So again, don't forget to select the name and the description, otherwise those will not get copied over. And again, we can click on the finish button now and we'll be done. I'll just go through all of the steps. Okay, so now one thing I want to mention, you can see I'm not copying so many hosts. It's taking some time. We don't have such a large environment. I mean, I've tested this bulk host wizard with copying 15, 20 hosts. I'm not sure how this is going to behave, let's say, when copying 1,000 hosts. One thing I want to mention, though, with people with large environments, you have to check few things first. First, make sure that you have your template host set up exactly the way you want it to be set up. Don't rush and clone it 100 times, whatnot, before you make sure that's exactly what you want. The second thing, depends on your system resources, how much juice you have on this box, and what are your settings in a php.ini file. It may time out on you, and the best thing to do is just test copy few hosts first, see how it works, and then if you, let's say, have 1,000 hosts to be created, do it in chunks, don't do it at once. Probably do it in chunks of 300, 400, 500 the most, and that should work better. And one other thing, before you even start running the wizard, make sure you don't have any configure errors. Check your configuration, use the right config tool, make sure you don't have any errors, and then run it. We had a user who cloned 500 template 500 times, and then discovered he had a problem that, and he goes, okay, how can I undo this? And it's not very easy. So anyway, I don't know how far we went through this video, but yeah, we're in the Windows hosts. You can see all of the Windows hosts that have been created in the services. And let's take a look at the configuration. Okay. I don't know if you remember what it used to be, but yeah, the parent is the same, and the host group, all the check settings are the same. We have our Win contact. So all of the data has been cloned. So let's go. So we can exit that. Okay, so let's continue. I want to mention some of the limitations of the bulk host cloning and import wizard. First of all, it cannot clone properly some types of service checks that rely on other applications. For example, it cannot clone properly checks created by the web transaction wizard and a network switch router wizard. And that's because the web transaction wizard uses WebInject, and network wizard relies on MRTG. So this is one case where you cannot use bulk host wizard. There is another limitation. It copies over the same password. Let's say if you're cloning a Windows host, it will not change the password for you, so you'll still have to go and manually change the password, for different boxes if you need to, if there is a different password. So that's one thing you have to do. As I mentioned, it's very difficult to undo once you create all those so many hosts. It's going to be difficult. Now, if you rerun the wizard, it's going to add extra services if you have extras, but it will not delete the old ones, so they will stay. So that's why you have to be careful. And also, one other limitation, if you need to use agents, let's say you monitor a Linux box, you need to install NRP on all the remote boxes, and let's say NS Client++ for the Windows. So basically, the wizard will not install the agents for you. You'll have to do that prior to running the wizard. Some of the possible issues. We've seen some issues with it, not so many. So it's been running great, but there are some issues that we've noticed one of them, I think I mentioned about it. You may get an error, no template services selected in step 3. If you want to clone the host with no services, you're not going to be able to. You have to select at least one service in order to proceed. The second issue is kind of big. Basically, apply configuration fails, and you get an error. Service description, host name, or check command is null. Could not register service. That happens when the config name for the host and the services is different. When you run a wizard in XI, it creates the same config names for host and services. Those configs are placed in USR local Nagios etc hosts or services directories, and those names are the same. Now, for users coming from a Nagios core background who like renaming, moving configs around, changing those manually, just to keep in mind, if you have a different names, this wizard will fail. You have to have the same config name for the host and services. Now, by default, alias is not inherited. You have to define it and put it in the text box and select description, whatnot, in order to have an alias. Otherwise, you'll just see alias, which is not really descriptive. And I think that's the last issue we've observed. A host group relationship is not inherited. That's the interesting one. Is many things in Nagios XI, you can do one thing a few different ways. Defining a host group in XI can be done in a couple of different ways. You can do it under the host management in a CCM. When you modify a host, you can add it to a host group, or you can do it under the host group management and just modify a host group and add a bunch of members, add this host as a member. Now, keep in mind, this bulk host cloning and import wizard will work only if you define your host-host relationships within the host management. It will not work if it's defined under the host group management. So what's interesting, in the old CCM, you could do it both ways. I mean, you could go and define those relationships under the host management, then they go in under the host group management and do the same thing. You could have it both ways. Now, with the new CCM, Mike Guthrie actually changed that. So if you have already host-host group relationship defined, and you'll get a message that it's already been defined. So if you try to change it, you'll have to actually go back to the host group management, break those relationships and go back. So it's a little bit more pain to do it, but this new CCM solves some other issues being set up this way. So we like it the way it's set up right now. So just wanted to give you heads up to watch for those host group relationships and where they're set up actually. And actually, that's for the most part, that's about it about this, about the wizard. I'm just gonna briefly mention, we have some other bulk modification tools. I believe Mike Guthrie already talked about those. One was changing notifications in bulk, and the other one is a bulk modification tool under the new CCM. You can change a single config option using this tool and set your value. You can change max check attempts, check interval, etc. I put all these values here just to show you. There's a drop-down menu. You can set the value, then you can apply it to a bunch of hosts or services in bulk, which is really convenient. Also, you can add a contact to a list or remove a contact from a list in a similar fashion, which is something that the users have been asking for. So that's all I have. I provide you with some contact information, and you can use all those resources. I'm sure you know about .com and .org pages and Exchange, GoToLabs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Solutions page. Check it out, and of course, if you have any issues, check out the support page. So I'm not sure if that was short or what, but that's about it. Do you have any questions?
I don't exactly have a question, but more of a comment. As Ludmil had mentioned, one of the common problems that was found in XI or really any system that was using Nagios QL was the fact that if you do use a bulk management tool of any case, getting the stuff in there is often very easy. Taking it back out when you make a mistake is not so easy. But in all versions of 2012 of Nagios XI, the standard and the enterprise version, we also did add in a configuration rollback feature. So you'll now have the ability, if you realize that you did make a mistake in your configuration and you made it in mass, you want to start over, you can actually go to the configuration snapshot page, pick a previously good configuration, and roll back to that in 2 clicks. So that is available as well, starting in 2012.
Thank you, Scott. I intended to mention that, and I forgot. I had it in my presentation. I took it out. I said, well, I'll remember it, but thank you. Yeah, that's a really cool feature, and I'm sure it's going to save you a lot of headaches.
So how does this relate to what you were talking about yesterday with templates? Is this still something that you can manage after all these bulk hosts go in with a template? Or how does that work together? Is not.
Well, you can always use a template to, to set up your configurations. I mean, if the template is not used, you can actually define it in a host or services. If you have anything defined in a host or service, it's just going to override the template. So, you can do it either way. You'll just have you'll have a identical copy per se of this template host that you selected, one of your existing hosts in XI, and copy it along with its services. Whatever the template is used in the original hosts that have been cloned, that's going to be used in your other hosts. So basically, that's why it's a really good idea to check the configuration of the original host that you'd like to clone. Make sure that that's exactly what you want before you copy it, because once you copy it, you'll end up with hundreds of hosts that if you need to modify, well, you can do this easily now. You can revert to the previous configuration snapshot in 2012, but yeah.
I think that what Ludmil's saying is correct. He's right. And I think what you're asking is, can you make changes once you set those local settings? Because these are local settings. Now, Nagios has solved that in 2012, and that's what he was making reference to, is if you use the bulk host wizard and you said, oh man, I've got templates, but I wanted to push something that's now local, you could remove that or change that with the other tool that's now available. So it won't be a problem any way you do it. I think that that's the ultimate answer, is you can solve it in several different ways now. So this addition in 2012 is really a great addition. So.
Anybody else? All right. Well, with that, we'll close by saying, how about a nice round of applause for Ludmil Miltchev?
Thank you.